the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. Alabama, 4 seed, Michigan, 1 seed. ESPN, FBI likes Michigan at 55. Wow, that's not a word. 55.5%. We've got an over-under of 44.5, and we've got a line in Michigan's favor at 1.5. When you look at that, bro, with those numbers, those lines, those over-unders, the ESPN, FBI, everything we just mentioned there, what's your initial thought?
My initial thought is, dang, I wish this was Florida State. My initial thought is nobody knows what the heck's going to happen. 1.5 is the most meaningless number of all time. That 1.5 Michigan's favor means there's a lot of value in betting Alabama outright or to cover that. Obviously, because that it's hard to cover a 1.5 and lose. Obviously, you can see that in these big games when they're super tight, everything's on the line. They feel like, there's a lot of people saying they shouldn't be there. That guarantee you, Saban's loving that. All the guys like us out there, he loves that. But yeah, tells me Vegas doesn't have a great read. That FPI, which again is about as good as a $3 bill, comes to buying goods, is shocking to me. 11% in favor of Michigan. That's a little high for me.
Yeah.
I think what this should be, though. I think this should be a heck of a defensive game. I mean, one of the better defenses is what it's going to be for Alabama. It's going to be somewhere in the ballpark of Georgia's. Maybe not quite that good, I would say. But I think Michigan has some strengths where Georgia maybe has taken a little attrition. And I think that both of these defenses are going to be kind of something that neither has seen a whole lot of when you look at their schedules and how it's played out for them.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. My initial thought is, for the sake of the integrity of college football, I need Michigan to bend Alabama over.
Absolutely.
And it sounds like I'm making a joke, but I'm really being serious. We for the sake of the sport, we need Michigan to win this game to the tune of like 65-7. Just so we can end this argument of best 4 and putting somebody in the playoff because it's going to drive dollar and they're one of the best teams. Let's end that. We really need something to swing back into the favor of principle and logic and integrity of this sport. But here we are. This is what we're dealing with. The spread doesn't really tell me much. I think what jumps off to me is the ESPN FBI, why ESPN likes them by a solid 10%. I can't exactly figure out. It's neutral turf. It's the Rose Bowl, Pasadena, California. I expect Michigan to travel exceptionally well for this game because it's been, a long time. And it's Alabama, right? Alabama, I imagine, is like, been there, done that, got the T-shirt, hoping that's the case.
Yeah.
I agree with what you said a little bit. I think and I hope that this game is going to be played in a phone booth, and if that's the case, I don't hate Michigan's odds here.
Yeah.
I think this could come down to defense and quarterback play. How well does Michigan defend Milroe? Do they allow him to get out of the pocket? Can they contain him? Can they defend the deep ball? And what Jalen Milroe and Alabama offense are we going to get? Are we going to get the first half where it was, fumble over themselves, burp, throw up, deep ball for 6? Or is it going to be what we got against Georgia, which is probably what I'm anticipating?
Yeah.
More well-rounded. Either way, I'm not picking Michigan, at least just yet anyway. What I'm saying is either way that it unfolds, I don't hate Michigan's opportunity here.
No, I don't either. I definitely, I don't think it's arguable that Milroe is the most dynamic quarterback that they faced to this point. How it's so wild, but how dangerous he is, and how you almost want the play to break down if you're Alabama, so he can really, start cooking and doing what he does. It's crazy. I mean, there's just not been many guys do it the way he does when things go wrong.
Yeah.
But also, things can go right, like they draw it up, and he's still, like I said, the most dynamic quarterback that they faced. I think fortunately for Michigan, they don't have a wide receiver room full of Jerry Judy, Devontae Smith, Waddle. They don't have those guys right now. They've
Yeah.
got a couple really dangerous ones, a couple really good ones. They've got tight end options that can hurt you. The run game, it's not, again, what we thought it would be coming into this year. It's not Mark Ingram back there. It's not Derrick Henry back there. Plenty
Right.
dangerous, and Milroe is a massive factor in it. But I think it's one of the more. I mean, look, they've played Alabama I almost said preseason in week 1, week 2 at times before during Saban's run. They've seen them. They've seen Georgia. When they were a national title team. I think this is the best chance that they're going to have when you look at some of those early season games against Alabama, the matchups with Georgia that we've seen. Certainly didn't see them losing to TCU last year. We thought we were going to get a matchup with Georgia from the year before. We didn't get it. But I think this is one of their best chances, since Harbaugh's been there for sure and since they've played teams like this Alabama team.
So are you saying that this Michigan squad is better than that 21 and 22 squad?
I do think they are on at least some principles in the regard that McCarthy is older. He's been there longer. The way that he's played this year versus when Harbaugh's in versus when Harbaugh's out, and we're at least not dealing with that drama right now, or at least it's in the rear view right now. It's not
Sure.
the forefront as it has been. They're probably grateful as well for all the Florida State drama. As much as Saban may be, they're probably as grateful for it as well because we're not hearing so much. Well, was Michigan eligible and stuff like that? You know what I mean? We're not hearing that. We're hearing all about Florida State needing to be in there, which I'll maintain until I go to my grave.
Sure.
That would be the case. But yeah, I think it's one of the more manageable situations that they've encountered during their better years of Harbaugh up there.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd like to point out that your comments on the Alabama receiving room, Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, Jerry Judy, like you said, those guys are not walking through the door. However, even though I can't stand this guy, you got a very respectable, as far as performance, Jermaine Burton. 35 catches on the year, 777 yards, 8 scores. Performed really well in Atlanta against Georgia. After him, you've got Isaiah Bond, 44 catches, 621 yards, 4 touchdowns. And after them, it really tanks as far as receptions go. You go in 35 from 44 to 19 and 17. 321 yards, 301 yards for Niblack and Prentice, 4 scores and 2 scores for those guys. I wonder if there's a philosophy in there for Michigan where we go, if we can defend these guys and defend the run, we got a real shot at this thing. But then I kind of come back to the idea of McCarthy, as you also mentioned. I'm not sure what to make of him. Is he the beneficiary of an absolutely stellar running game in Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards, and is he just the benefit of the ability to first down, second down, hand off to those guys and play action on third down or whatever? Just this guy run right, this guy run left, turn around, back to the defense, boom, hit you over the top, something like that. But I tell you this, I don't know that I could tell you a single Michigan receiver. I mean, everybody's going to talk about going into this thing. We're going to talk about, okay, Roman Wilson. Sorry, I just saw it.
Yeah,
I just saw it. My point there is, neither of the Michigan receivers are they going to jump off the page at you. I mean, if I'm an Alabama defense looking at the receiving room, I'm going, meh. There's nothing really there that scares me. What has gotten Bama in the past is an ability to win a 50-50 ball. Well, Roman Wilson's not going to do that at 6 foot. Is he going to be able to get off press? How's Alabama going to approach that? Or are they going to come after? Or are they just going to say, listen, throw it. I don't care. Throw it. We're gonna defend the run. You're not going to run on us. And again, you've got Cornelius Johnson, 6'3", so maybe there's a 50-50 ball. I feel like I'm all over the place right now. But if I'm Bama, I'm looking at Michigan offensively, and I'm going, nothing really there. It scares me, y'all.
Yeah, and let's not forget them. And look, I think I want to respond to what you were saying about Alabama's receiver room. I think Bond is the scariest one there. I respect Burton. I do.
Out of both rooms?
No. I was just speaking Alabama, to start off. I think, Bond is absolutely, I think, the scariest receiver in the game. I'll go that far. But the Alabama's room, I know he doesn't lead them in receptions, but he's the one that scares me the most. Look at the, controversial catch there on 4th and 4 in the SEC championship game that he made. His speed coming across the middle or taking it deep. Prentice can also do that, but we've not seen it as much this year. Probably just in the way that their offense is kind of morphed out of having a guy like Bryce Young and some of the receivers that they have. We've not seen as many dynamic dudes doing what they've done before. Bond is the one that scares me the most. To Michigan's credit, they've got 3 guys right there, 42, 41, and 40 receptions, I believe it is. Now, one is the tight end, Colston Loveland, who's also an excellent target. 2 guys. No, 42, 41, 40 in terms of catches, yeah. Loveland, the tight end, being the guy there with 40. Big body, 6'5". He can absolutely make things happen. I think they need to do a lot of things through him. What linebackers can they take advantage of, or what safety can they get him on matched up with? I wouldn't recommend it being Caleb Downs, but, do what you can. I think both of these offenses have been more explosive than certainly Alabama, than they've been this year. There's been a lot of games where Blake Corum doesn't have quite that same magic that he had in earlier points in his career. Now he's also done a lot, so credit to him. But it's a weird thing where we've seen such a offensive movement in the game, and that's just not what this game screams to me. Now the other side that we'll get to in a minute, Texas and Washington, screams offense, offense, offense. And look, there's a lot of great defenders on that Texas team, not quite so much on the Washington team, or the names that at least. But this game just screams defense. And the other point that I wanted to make as I finish my thought is Michigan's secondary. Love their defensive backs. Love what options they might have to throw at Burton or Bond or even whoever they decide to run, out of their slot. I love their matchups there. They've just not maybe seen too many guys like Bond and Burton, depending on how they line them up.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Glancing through the Michigan stats as you're saying all these things, and obviously Blake Corum jumps off the page when you look at their rushing statistics. 218 carries, over 1,000 yards, 24 times finding pay dirt. And
Gosh.
I was not anticipating this significant of a drop after him. I was expecting Donovan Edwards to be better. 109 attempts, 382 yards. Good for 3.5 on the year, 3 scores. And so then my mind went to, okay, who'd you play? Okay, you played East Carolina, UNLV, Bowling Green, Rutgers. Obviously, your backup should have 1,000 yards after the first 4 games. And then you go to Michigan, you go to Minnesota, you host Indiana, you go to Michigan State. I'm still not seeing anything that makes me go, why are you not running all over the map here, even as a backup? Hosting Purdue, at Penn State, finally, where you get a 9-point victory there. And I'm pretty sure they didn't do anything but run in the second half in that game.
Correct.
Blake Corum, 26 for 145. Donovan Edwards, 10 for 52. Meh. At Maryland, home against Ohio State, where, of course, I know he went off last year, but this year, 10 for 31, where Corum was 22 for 88. And then you played Iowa. So you arguably have 3 games on this schedule. Blake Corum, 16 for 52 against Iowa. Donovan Edwards, 4 for 28. That makes me start to lean in Alabama's favor, where I'm going, why was it just one guy when you didn't play much?
So and sophomore Donovan Edwards had 991, and he was,
it
was like there was no drop off last year when Corum banged his knee against Illinois, I think it was, and they almost lost that game,
Yeah.
I thought he was lost for the season at that point. I still don't know how he made a comeback from that. But when you look at the drop off from sophomore to junior year, you might be looking at a backfield that features neither of these guys next year. Let's be honest.
Corum's gone.
Corum's gone. Edwards with such a drop off concerns me. You know what I mean? But that does really just the drop off. and look, it's not like Alabama has blown everybody out of the woods this year. Look, they should have lost Auburn. I don't know how they bounced back to beat Georgia and kind of hold them, in the ways that they did coming off of that game. Obviously, some look ahead in the Iron Bowl magic, but it does make you want to lean a little more crimson in terms of what your head says when you look at those things.
Yeah, I would like to use that to segue into the prediction section of this, if we can go ahead and get into that. Again, I would love to see this game be played in a phone booth. I would love to see, just a defensive battle and then turn around later this night and watch, fireworks go off offensively.
Yeah.
That way we've got one heck of a narrative going into the national championship game. I think before going into recording this, I would have told you Michigan's probably the better rushing team. I'm making a hard 180. I'm giddy up U-turn. And I think this game is going to come down to, okay, let me pause. Going into this, I was going to tell you, I think Milroe's your X factor. I think he's going to be the one that is going to decide this, a lot like what I said with Tommy Rees and him going into Atlanta. I've changed my final mid recording right here. Changed my winner mid recording right here. I think this game is going to come down to who wins the rushing battle. Who wins the rushing battle? And you've got that Milroe factor where they can run some QB sweeps, QB powers, a couple different things. And then you start looking at their statistics on the year. Jace McClellan, who will get drafted after Blake Corum, 166 carries on the year, 803 yards, 6 touchdowns. And then Roydell Williams, 110 carries, 561 yards. Milroe, 140 carries, 468 yards, 12 touchdowns on the year. Then you got the Jam. Is it Jam Miller? Right?
Jam Miller.
Jam. 40 carries, 190 yards. Just as a collective, I think I like the Tide better here. I had, going into this, I had it written down. I've marked a line through it. I had Michigan winning this game. I now got Bama. I'm going to take Bama, shoot me in the face, stub my toe, steal my joy. I'm going to take them 31-27.
Okay. You're going over the points.
Yeah.
I'm sticking to a lot of hope. Some of my guns. I also think your big X factor, in addition to, and I actually, maybe even bigger than who wins the rushing battle, which is huge in this game. It's like the statistic that we used to have in the Tennessee-Florida game with the rushing leader wins the game. Yeah. I think that's huge here. But what can J.J. McCarthy do when? I'm not going to say if. I'm going to say when the run game faces challenges that they've not seen so far this year, when they're not finding the success that they've had in some of these wins, some of these game control wins that they've had. What does J.J. McCarthy have against this defense? That question aside, Michigan wins the game 23-17.
Wow. So you got a really low scoring game here.
I think, man, I would be surprised if we just see buckets of yards in this game. Got a lot of faith in these defenses and giving us a vintage Rose Bowl.
I might change my mind if McCarthy can do this thing where he can extend the play, where he can get out of pressure. I don't see a case where Alabama doesn't generate pressure. I don't see that.
Oh, yeah.
I don't see that. So can McCarthy, can he extend the play? Can he keep his eyes downfield? Can he do what Bryce Young did so well for all those years when he was in college football? Keeping his eyes downfield, extending the play, turning what should be a 4-yard loss into, back to the line of scrimmage or +1, +2. Can you do stuff like that? And even break open, the scramble drill for, +25. Can he do that? Yes. Do I think he will? No. Therefore, I'm gonna stick to the Bama prediction. The Rose Bowl, granddaddy of them all, should be a doozy. Hope it's an instant classic. Hope I'm wrong, but I'm going to take Bama 31-27. Mike's going to take Michigan 23-17.